As we know, we can't have a tree without planting a seed. The same principle is applied for anatomy. And to better master the understanding of this module, we must know basic anatomical terms. Basic anatomical terms used to describe the different structures and their relationships with all the body. And to make it easy, I will divide this lesson into two parts. The first one is terms of relationships. The second is terms of laterality. Now we will study the terms of relationships. Then let's start. The terms of relationships are also called directional terms. Why we call directional or terms of relationships? Because they are helpful for identification and relationships of something compared to another. Why do they come in pairs? They come in pairs to relate various aspects of the body, and because they can be used to refer in reference to something else. And what they are these terms, we will study them one by one: ventral dorsal, superficial deep, cranial caudal, proximal distal, and medial lateral. Now let's start with ventral dorsal. As we see here in the picture, this is the ventral. We took an example of the upper part of the body. This is its ventral part, and this is its dorsal parts. Here we must know that they are also called anterior and posterior. The anterior or the ventral part is everything towards which is directed towards the front. Okay, and everything dorsal or posterior is directed towards the back. Okay. Now let's move to the second thing. Here, superficial and deep. We took here an example. This is the biceps brachii. It's a muscle of the upper limb, biceps brachii. And here we have joints called elbow joint. Superficial. Now we can conclude what is superficial and what is deep. Superficial is closer to the skin, the most exterior part. The deep is further away from the skin. Okay, here we have, like we see here, the biceps is superficial because it's closer to the skin, and this joint here is deep because it's further from the skin. Also, we can take an example of venous system. Venous system, we have two parts. We have the superficial venous system and we have the deep venous system. Now let's move to cranial and caudal. Here I have a note is that cranial and caudal are used when we study head and neck. Head and neck. Okay, cranial is also called superior and caudal is also called inferior. The cranial is everything closer to the head. Caudal is everything closer to the tail. Here, like we see here, this is cranial in reference to this. The eye is cranial in reference to the mouth. We said in the first in the beginning that they are called directional or terms of relationships because they can be used in reference. We can refer something compared to something else. Now let's move to proximal distal and medial lateral. The proximal, when we when we say something is proximal, is everything closer to the origin. Okay, closer to the origin of something is proximal. The distal is everything further than the origin, closer and further. Okay, here let's take an example. We can say that the shoulder, this is the shoulder, is proximal in reference with this elbow joint. The elbow joint is the joint between the arm and the forearm. Okay, here, and this elbow joint is proximal in reference to the hand. Okay, or this is this joint here is called the wrist joint. Okay, now proximal is near to the origin, and distal is further than the origin. Okay, now let's move to medial lateral. To distinguish between these two terms, medial and lateral, here we must take the midline. Everything close to the midline is medial. Everything not close or further than the midline is lateral. Okay, we take two structures and we compare what is the most closest to the midline, and we can extract the term if it is medial or lateral. Okay, and this is where the terms of laterality.